order. All right, got a lot of business to do this evening. All right, be a roll call.
Dutchess County, Nicholas Trio, here. Dave Violante.
Here.
Joan Siebert. Tim Murphy. Matt Nolan. Pete Chanella. Guy Carpicio. And Dee Sagendorf. Sorry. Orange County, Joan Cheney.
Here.
Ben Conquest. Eileen Mancuso. Andrew Lamarca.
Here.
Israel Knobloch.
Here.
Terry Barbie. Frank Castnight. Michael Bigg. Putnam County, Robert Cuomo. David Jacobson.
Here.
Matthew Bondi.
Here.
Rockland County, Kim Lippis. Nick Rusieski. Michael Murphy.
Here.
Desiree Leone.
Here.
Glenn Albin.
Here.
Deborah Stewart. Bernice Garotti.
Here.
B.J. Leidner.
Here.
Sullivan County, Avi Bachman. Greg Tavermina. Neil Mehta. Heidi Stack. Mike Bruce. Mark Strauss. Ulster County, Rich Parrish.
Here.
Kelly Nelson.
Here.
Dorothy Balin. Richard Mullerly. Lisa Servino.
Here.
We have 16 in attendance.
16 attendance, and that is a good quorum. Quorum is 13, so that's good. All right, in some cases, like with Ulster County, Lisa, you can vote this evening as an alternate, and Dee as an alternate. Both Bernice and BJ can vote.
That's it.
And that's it, okay? So when the roll call is, because we have a couple of roll call votes this evening, when Nick calls that, the alternates are authorized to vote. All right. Approval of the minutes as distributed. If no comments, motion's in order.
Motion to accept.
D, motion to accept. Second. Matt? All right. Okay, President's report. I had the pleasure of attending the Sullivan EMS Day in Sullivan County, sponsored by NeverSync, and listening to those folks and what's going on in Sullivan. The biggest part of the discussion was telling them they need to get involved. They need to get involved in what's going on in their county. There's an EMS advisory board establishing over there. They really need to get involved with that and get representation to this council, because we sure could use their input. All right. Treasurer's report.
I have one.
You have that?
Yes, I do. We wrote 57 checks since our last meeting, which was 2/21/2018. We wrote 57 checks to the tune of $22,587. Most of it is rent and health insurance, and then there's no other major checks and nothing that exceeded $500. We transferred $30,000 from our checking account into our payroll account. We did receive payment from our vouchers to New York State. We billed at the program agency level $42,379. That was billed and paid. At the council level, we billed $3,190, and that was billed and paid. We also received a deposit or a grant for $7,500 from AMFAR, and we deposited a $3,000 CON payment, which is reimbursed to the agency at the end as to what we spend and don't spend, so. I think that's it, that's all that's on here.
Any questions of the treasurer's report? Motion to accept? Second. Okay. Okay. Regional staff.
Okay. I do have a few things. I'll try to go through them quickly. If you have any questions, please stop me and we'll talk about it. For anyone that is not aware of it, there is a new director of the Bureau of EMS. His name is Ryan Greenberg. He's been working in EMS for about 25 years, and he comes into the position with a broad amount of experience in EMS and management and other educational areas involved in EMS.
What was his first name?
Ryan Greenberg. Right? He always asks two questions, so I'll relay them to you, so if you see him, that you know he'll ask you. And the first one is, if you had one wish to change anything in EMS, what would it be? And, well, he wants us to send that back, and they are going to create a tool that will allow everybody to answer that question. And the second one is, what would keep you in EMS for an additional 10 years from right now? So what could be done in EMS to keep you there? Yeah? We have two mini Municons that will be coming up that need to be done by the end of the year. That's the town of Patterson and Putnam and Arlington Fire and Dutchess. And the office and the protocol committee has been working to define the AEMT level of care within the Hudson Valley. We have finished the final draft, and it will be presented to the REMAC on June 4th. The Transportation Committee has been working on expansion of territory with Hutzola of Rockland, and this action will come up for a vote later on this evening. The town of New Windsor has submitted an expansion of territory to include the town of Cornwall. The application was returned because of some additional information and some minor corrections were needed, but it will go out to the Transportation Committee as soon as it's being resubmitted. We expect it any day now. We also received from the Village of New Square in Rockland County a application for an ALS upgrade. So the application is being reviewed, a tag is going to be created, and then the REMAC will review those tags and conduct a public meeting. We think we have stopped the portal from sending out emails, erroneous emails to everybody, hopefully. And we won't be, Karen is doing that manually now until we get that fixed. But the rest of the information in the portal is valid, it's correct, it's up to date, so please use it. Right? If you have any questions or if there's any issues with sign-ons or problems or passwords or anything, you can direct those directly to Karen. She'll take care of that for you. From the office, our March deliverables, which I said in the Treasurer's report, was submitted, and the vouchers were submitted and paid by New York State. There was a RTAC meeting, which is the Regional Trauma Advisory Committee. It's similar to our REMAC, only it deals strictly with trauma, and it's chaired by the Westchester Medical Center trauma surgeon, Dr. Lombardi. And Dr. Lombardi was a vetted member now to STAC, so he represents the Hudson Valley in STAC, and STAC is the State Trauma Advisory Committee. New York State appointed a new trauma program manager. It's a nurse, and I'm not sure where she's from. Her name is Catherine Burns. The RTAC was supposed to submit a presentation from the Hudson Valley on O2 administration in pre-hospital care, but they did not get an opportunity to do that. They did vote on the missed reporting format, and it was accepted by RTAC, and it's waiting for our REMAC approval on June 4th to implement. So they like it, they want to use it, but they're going to wait until we approve it through the REMAC. And the next RTAC meeting is on September 14th. In the last night and this morning, there was a Moving to Nemesis 3 meeting Last night it was in Putnam, this morning it was in Westchester. Jeff will go over a lot of that in his report. This week was it this week or last week? I don't even remember. I think it was this week, was the Tree of Life ceremony.
Last week.
Was it? Yeah,
That's
in
Wednesday.
Albany. And that's memorial for EMS providers that have died in the line of duty. There were 8 providers moved to the tree this year. So if you didn't get a chance to go there, it's a kind of a moving ceremony. It's kind of interesting. It was webcasted, so I'm sure that it will be displayed on the Bureau of EMS website shortly. If you haven't heard, there is another Ebola breakout in the Congo. Hopefully it will be controlled and we won't see it like we did the last time, but it is brewing there. And the only other thing I have is that the next state meetings will be in September 25th and September 26th up in the Troy Hilton. And that's all I have. If there's questions or anything.
Any questions of Bill? If not, all right, QA/QI.
As Bill alluded to, NEMSIS 3.4.0 is finally a reality in New York State. As of this coming Tuesday at 9:30, they're going to start accepting data. They're going to start with image trend clients, simply because the bridge is an image trend product, and if there's going to be issues, it's best that they find it on their own product first, rather than trying to push through everybody at once. Full implementation of the bridge will probably take the balance of the year. It's going to be vendor by vendor, agency by agency, and Peter Brody will be contacting the agencies as they go. Some of the changes that we will see with this, significantly more data points to look at, which is going to enhance the agency's capability of looking at data and seeing what they can do themselves to improve quality from within. One of the caveats, if your documentation does not pass validation, it won't be posted to the bridge, it will be kicked back to the agency, and then it will be up to the provider to make the corrections and resubmit it. So if you're submitting in batches, 50, 100, 1,000, you will get all of those PCRs back. And so it would be a really good idea, as the implementation is taking place, to make certain that your providers are answering all the required questions. And if the front end on your side isn't set up to maybe ask all the questions, work with your vendor to get that fixed up front, and it will save you from a lot of grief later down the line. This has been a long time coming. I'm kind of happy to see it. And I will leave it at that. One more thing, I do have a video from last night's session, and Peter Brody just sent me his PowerPoint presentation. I will be posting that on our website for anyone that's here to watch. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. Medical Director's Report. Do you have something from Dr. Papish?
None of the medical director, no.
No? Okay. Committee Report. Dave. Training. Hello.
We are, at the training committee level, looking at improving the technology and delivery of education via technology around the region. And so that could include streaming of presentations and using a variety of technology methods to deliver material, that sort of thing. We are also looking at delivering CIUs in 3-hour blocks. The new requirement is for a total of 8 hours. And so we can do, we're actually looking at doing 3-hour blocks quarterly around the region to accommodate that. And we're determining what the next class should be, a CLI or a CIC. We're just waiting back for some information from core sponsors to see what they need.
Any questions of Dave? All right. REMAC, again, Dr.
I
Papish.
do have.
You have something?
REMAC.
All right.
Yes. The REMAC has sent out 2 advisories since our last meeting, and the first one is on Cardizem, and there's an anticipated delay, so Metropol, 5 milligrams IV infused over 2 minutes instead of Cardizem is what can be used. The advisory is available on our website if you want to take a look at that. Right? We know that there are several other shortages that we're looking at with fentanyl and morphine. So there hasn't been any decision on them yet. I guess the supply is still there. They're just hard to get at this point. The other advisory that came out from the REMAC was on psychiatric patient destination, and this is a fairly long one. I'd rather not read it to you, but it says most facilities have inpatient psychiatric units tend to operate at a maximum operating capacity. As a basic premises of the emergency department care, all facilities that participate in 911 need to be capable of immediate stabilization of an emotionally disturbed patient. So what they're saying is you should take them to your local ER when it's needed, and that you don't have to transport long ways to your psychological treatment centers. All right? So please take a read on that. Those are the 2 that were sent. That's it.
Okay, thank you. All right, under Transportation Committee, we have 2 seconded motions, and they'll be brought up on the new business. One is the seconded motion for Waldwin Fire District, BLS FR, and the other seconded motion is Shavara Hatzola of Rockland County. All right, and again, they will be brought up on the new business. Public information, Desiree?
No report.
Policy and procedure, Greg's not here. Legislative and bylaws, Albie, well,
Do I have a report for you?
Oh.
go for it.
Okay. Both organizations, the New York State Volunteer Ambulance Rescue Association and the United New York Ambulance Network Association, had their lobby days. Both groups have very similar, if not identical, agendas, and that is to protect all of our interests in EMS. There are several things on the agenda. One I'm going to talk about in a second. The problem right now is in the legislature, it's election time. And the many Democratic and GOP seats are up for grabs. But nothing will get done legislatively until after the elections. That's the way it works. One good thing that we have is the Senate and both the Senate and the Assembly have passed a bill to designate EMS as an essential service. Excellent, it is. However, like I said, nothing's going to get done until election time is over. Forget it, it's not going to happen. Bill, if you have an interest, Assembly Bill number A as in Aldi, 8891, and Senate Bill S as S2770, if you have an interest in it. The bills are identical. Finally, they're recognizing the need for us to be essential, to give us the ability to apply for grants and things of that nature. But don't look for anything passing until after election time. So at least it's on the agenda.
Then it's going to take them 3 months to get that in.
I'm sorry?
Then it'll take them at least 3 months to get that fixed.
Oh, minimum. It's in committee and it's not going to move, but at least it is there. Now, one very important thing, Andy, go ahead.
The only thing is it's going to face a very uphill battle. Because we've already heard that, the local governments, that they're not interested in necessarily essential services because they bear the responsibility of funding those services. So very likely that mayors and supervisors will be against that legislation.
something to watch, it's something to fight for, but we'll see.
The lobby on supervisors and county executives, give them space in the budget if you're going to budget. It's not going to happen.
And one very important thing, the last part of my report, something that's very, very serious that you must really work on, and that is the bill that has been put into the assembly to change General Municipal Law 209B. I discussed this at the last meeting that we had. I don't know if you took it upon yourself to look at it, but it's serious for all of us upstate New York paramedic services. Right now, fire departments are prohibited from billing for those EMS services, the fire departments that have ambulances in them. Big push down in Long Island to change General Municipal Law 209-B, allowing them to bill for EMS services. What happens is that kills the Medicare reimbursement for paramedic advanced life support intercepts that we can do in our rural areas. So right now, if we go and assist a fire department ambulance, we hop aboard, and we are allowed to bill Medicare for it. If 209B changes, that goes away. And our senior citizens and those that have both Medicare and Medicaid, recipients, the handicapped individuals, are going to get big bills. New York State is the only state in the union, and Medicare has allowed us to do that, is to bill Medicare for paramedic intercepts of the fire department ambulances. Again, to reiterate, if this bill passes, that goes away, and we have to bill our senior citizens. It is all over the internet right now. In my county alone, it's posted by fire departments in our county. There is an internet news agency in our county that has posted it, but they're not getting the other side. The problem with this is the billing to our senior citizens. They're going to get slammed. You need to work on your legislators. I said it before, I can't reiterate how important this is for upstate rural counties. Speak to your legislators. Don't let this go by. You'll be sorry if you didn't speak up on behalf of your constituents. You are our representatives, EMS. Get out there and do something about it. There's a tremendous push. We know how strong the fire lobbyists are. FASD is strong. We need to be strong as well.
Yes, you may.
I appreciate you carrying the mantra of onion. However, 55% of the events in New York State.
Mike, you have to raise your voice for me,
Sure.
please.
I appreciate you carrying the mantra of onion. However,
And New York State Volunteer Ambulance and Rescue Association.
Correct. However, 55% of EMS in the state of New York is provided by the fire service. And they have been unable to bill for services. They've been unable to recover expenses for services, as the volunteer ambulance corps have been now for many years, and as the commercial services have. The scare tactic of our senior citizens being hit with these large bills is, quite frankly, a scare tactic. And if you look at the way that can be overcome, which the commercial ambulances would overcome, is that they would enter into an agreement with the fire department, which would now be the billing entity. And the fire department, once they had an agreement with the ALS First Response Agency, would enter into said agreement, and the ambulance corps would bill at the ALS rate, and Medicare and Medicaid would pay that, and then the ambulance corps would return that, the fire department ambulance would return that to the ALS provider. It's not like they're not going to get these huge bills. And I'm not really think that this is the correct forum to have this discussion. That's just another thing. And to try and make a proponent of one side of the agenda versus other sides. And there are some fire department representatives here who may wish to voice their opinions. I don't think that we should get into a lengthy discussion about this at this particular table. You know, we've had this debate a long time. I think that it is a relative protectionist opposition. And that's just, I'm speaking as a member of the State Fire Chiefs Association and inherently involved in 390 to overturn.
Andy?
Again, I don't want to believe it's some political statement here. I object to the scare tactic phrase, but Michael's right about certain things that certain fire departments that they did build, and could enter into an agreement with us. The only problem is, once that law changes, we've got a lot of fire departments who don't intend to build, and there will not be recourse for that.
Well, again, that's incorrect because from the Fascinating Association and from the State Association, we have encouraged those.
Well, you might have encouraged them, but a lot say they're not. So it deserves more attention than it would appear. But the law is the law, so that will change. So it will affect certain people. But again, I agree, it's not the place to go.
I don't think that every Medicare recipient, north of wherever, is all of a sudden going to lose their paramedic service.
I appreciate the response, Dr. Good. But the EMS side is not being heard. And as Andy said, not all fire departments are going to enter into it, but we understand.
Well, I think the EMS side is
But allow me to finish. Until this subject is clear, we must oppose so that dialogue occurs. But right now, it's one-sided.
Well,
and not only, and just because, I'm not speaking, on behalf of others, I'm speaking on behalf of emergency medical services. And it just so happens that we have two organizations that are involved in this. And the SPARA also opposes to this change to 290. It has to be in our minds to discuss, because it's only one side right now.
I'm
Right, thanks.
I'm not going to get involved in it anymore.
No, thanks for your comments, and it is something to look at and to be aware that's what's out there. All right. The legislative day, Albie, that's still on hold?
It is, and speaking to, well, Honest Sex's not going to be around much longer, but both he and Gunther feel that the fall would be best.
Okay.
It clears the calendar, it clears everybody's mind. We had lobby day, and then it's behind us, and so it looks like we'll be doing it in fall.
Okay. All right. Thank you. EPCR committee, anything from those folks? Nothing?
No, I'm going to what was reported to Jeff.
All right. Community paramedicine, Mike?
We're doing it. And again, there's been no legislation. We're doing it along a very fine line, which is a legal fine line, but we're still hoping that will come to fruition in the future. I haven't heard anything from the legislature or the lobby folks with regard to that, which is a vital aspect. We're doing it under a cooperation with Nyack Hospital for a grant from Montefiore. Anecdotally, the impact that we're having on our patients and the impact that we're having on their health is tremendous. And we're also having a fairly decent impact on reducing the amount of visits to the hospital by requiring folks to keep going for these different items that we've been able to do out in the field. At some point in time, at the end of this first year, we'll probably put a report together and from our agency in Nyack Hospital, and we'll share that, but I think that definitely is a waiver of the future. And we need to have the legislation clearly done so that we don't have to tap dance.
Yeah, at the state meeting, the home health folks came on board, but Mizara, is it Mizara? The Nurses Association still is.
John Franklin was in opposition,
Yep.
and I'm a nurse.
Mhm.
And this is not stuff that Meisner would do. We go into neighborhoods, and we go into towns, and we go into areas, and other than 8 to 4 in the morning, and it's just, and also we fill the gaps. So in other words, when a patient has an issue, they're calling the coordinator, and the coordinator talks to them, and if the coordinator wants eyeballs on the patient, they can call the CP, and the CP can go and get the eyeballs on the patient.
Yep.
DNS, it's not, they don't have the logistics to do that.
Okay, thanks for the update. Report on the awards committee?
All the awards were, the committee met, picked the awards, and they will be distributed, some of them to the councils tonight, and all of the winners were submitted to the state.
Okay. All righty, I have a note on here about written policy and procedures.
Yeah, as the awards committee has asked Kim to work with them to come up with a written policy and procedure for it, so that they're aware of how it's done at the state level, since she sits on that committee.
Yep. Okay, D, nominating committee.
Okay. I contacted the following people who said that they would again take office, and that would be President Rich Parrish, Vice President Bob Como, Secretary Nick Trio, Treasurer Nick Brzeski. We're kind of iffy. I didn't hear anything more back from him. I sent him another email. I did not hear back from him. So he said that he would take it if there was absolutely no one, but we're probably going to have to. So the thing with it is that we would have to probably take someone from the floor.
Does that come up on the new business, or we just handle it right now?
Might as well do it right now.
Do it now. All right. You want to chair it? Call for the nominations?
Okay. For the office of president, we have a nomination of Rich Parrish. Are there any other nominations from the floor? Any further nominations for president? Any further nominations for president? I would now take a motion.
Wait. Who moved a second? Andy? Was that you? Thank you.
And I think Matthew, you do the second? Okay. All those in favor of Rich Parrish as president? Aye. Vice President is Bob Como. Unfortunately, he's not here tonight, but are there any other nominations from the floor for president, for Vice President? Going once. Vice President, going twice. Vice President going 3 times. I would entertain a motion. Make a motion by Matthew Bondi. Second by Andy. Okay. All those in favor? Okay, if you go negative, then you don't get the office. Secretary is Nick Trio, who has said he would continue. Any other nominations for the office of secretary? Any other nominations? Third time, any other nominations for the office of secretary? I would entertain a motion. Matthew Bondi, second by Dave Violante. All those in favor? Treasurer. I know you had sent me, Bill, a description of the treasurer's duties. It's at one point in time. What they have to do. But the thing that is, he basically gets the report from another person, right? That does the books or whatever.
Well, no, let me read the position.
Yeah.
The treasurer and all the treasurer and all check signers are bonded in the amount commensurate with the responsibility of the office, shall have the custody of all funds, shall present a true and accurate accounting of all financial transactions to the council, and shall be accountable for the proper management of fiscal obligations. That's the bylaws definition of
Thank you.
this
Thank you.
treasurer.
Are there any nominations from the floor for treasurer? After you've heard that, is there any further, any nominations for the office of treasurer? Any other nominations for the office of treasurer? That being the case, I think Nick has to continue until a replacement is found.
Yep.
Okay. Do you need a motion on that?
Make a motion that...
Make motion
Yep.
that Nick has to continue?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, we got a motion, we have a second? Okay. All right, all those in favor? Okay, he's not gonna be happy. Anyway.
For now. All right. Thanks for your support, but give you a heads up that this will be my last year. It's time for somebody else to start bubbling up. Bob Cuomo has also made it be known that he does not wish to run for president. All right, so next year at this time, somebody else is going to have to step up. It's time that somebody else start bubbling up. Okay, guys? Just giving you a year to think about it. All right, state EMS, REMSCO meeting, as Bill said. Yeah, I got it. And Dave can jump in but the new chair is Patty Bayshore. Mark Philippi is first assistant or VP. Steve Caddy is the second. Protocols, Mercy, New York Stroke Protocol, the AEMT collaborative protocols. All right, they're working on the BLS update. They got input from the pediatric group and from the trauma group, and they went back and made some modifications. They hope to present it in September and implement them in January. All right, course sponsor renewals. They're out there. If you've got a course sponsorship, check. Make sure if you're due to be renewed, the paperwork's got to be in. The computer-based testing project is completed. Didn't get an awful lot of comments back. 58.
I'm sorry, I lost you.
Okay.
Computer-based what?
Computer-based testing project completed. They got 58 positive comments back, 16 negative. They continue to look at it. The critical care to Paramag Bridge is being looked at and looking for a full startup. CME renewal forms are getting to the office incomplete, and they're being kicked back, and you got to get them in there and ready to go with a 45-day lead time. I think Dave brought this up, but on their instructor courses, they have to be broken up into 3-hour segments now, and each 3-hour segment will have its own course number, so that if you take 3 hours here and take 3 hours somewhere else, you got the courses. Remember, you still have to have 8 hours, and it can be other types of instructor classes, not just the instructor updates. All right? They're having issues with CICs signing up to run classes and then finding out that they expired during the course, and if that happens, you're not a CIC. So your CIC number has got to be valid through the end of the class. BLS protocols, they're going to be turning it over to the training committee, which will be interesting, seeing as the training committee seems to have been put on the shelf, but, to roll out training. Finance, they're changing the timing of the budget template, try to get it in earlier so they have some more impact on the budget. There was a discussion about budget versus the cash ceiling. And what happens is the budget, and I'm just putting a number out there, is like 19 million, but they have a cash ceiling that they're only allowed to spend a certain amount. And right now, the cash ceiling is 15.5 million, which is pretty much what we've been getting right along, right? No significant, no increases.
No increase, yeah.
All right, they did bring up in legislative, there's a bill out there about direct payment. Right now, some folks are getting their check for their ambulance service, and, oh, this is a nice Christmas present, and going to spend it instead of turning the check over to the provider of service. And what they're looking to do is put both names on the check, so where that's going to go. All right, the safety committee is looking at different issues like fatigue and ballistic vests, that type of stuff. Best practices, number of hours. All right. EMSC for children, they had some input, like I mentioned, into the collective protocols. They did a survey on EMS agencies and how many have pediatric care coordinators. Only 11.8%. They're going to be pushing for that, to have people that be the lead on pediatric care. Competency on equipment, only 22% felt that they were competent on the pediatric equipment. One example is an agency came in where the girl that's the chair of the EMSC with a PD mate, and they had it on the a PD mate, PEDIMATE. It's a pediatric pediatric chair that straps to a stretcher. They had it on backwards and had the child in it all wrong. It would have never worked. That type of stuff they talked about. All right. Greenberg talked about is getting up to speed, looking at regs. The renewal EMSC got renewed for 4 years. All right. Pretty much everything else we looked at. Talked about the opioid crisis. All right, technology. All right. That pretty much it. Talked about the memorial. Covered that. Dave, anything else?
Yeah, the new CME program's should be out in September with new forms and numbers for what's required for paramedics and EMTs. Please continue to use the current one. Don't send anything in under a proposed draft new one. They'll get kicked back to you. The state is not sending out lists of expiring credentials, so you got to keep on top of that yourself and send stuff in an appropriate time frame. They're anticipating reimbursement to courses from the state is probably going to get worse, not better. But that where sponsors can certainly charge and make up some of the differences that way. For anybody interested, there is some PSAs on the state website. And so if you want to use those, link to those, you certainly can. Those are available. As Rich said, the CMAC passed the AEMT changes to the protocols because they wanted organizations to be able to use those over the summertime and not wait until September. So the September one's for BLS predominantly. For those services that are around, make sure that you're doing your QA work. And if you have any deficiencies, including documentation failures, not submitting PCRs, that kind of stuff. The CMAC definitely supported one of the regions in their abilities to suspend an agency, and they maintained that state of suspension because the agency wasn't in compliance. So just make sure that you guys are doing all those things. And that's the only other things that I want to add. Great.
Mike, you got anything? Okay. All right, so state, under old business, we have a transfer of internal funds policy, and Nick's not here. Did he give you anything?
No.
All right, regional faculty, that was discussed, and they ain't doing anything with it. All right, so that's, all right. They talked about the drug shortage, and Bill addressed that. Expiring delegates. All right, this is Dutchess County EMS. At the last meeting of Dutchess County EMS Council, the following changes were made to our REMSCO delegates and alternates. Matt Nolan resigned as a delegate and was replaced by Derlinda Segendorf. Derlinda?
Durinda. Mike Derlinda.
Okay. Also, the following delegates were reappointed. Nick Trio, delegate. Dave Violante, delegate. Joan Siebert, delegate. The alternate position previously held by D
Yes.
remains vacant at this time and will be filled at our next regular meeting. Motion to accept?
So moved.
I'm sorry, who's second?
I did.
Thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor? All right. Rockland County EMS, as confirmation of renewal, Kim Lippis, delegate. Nick Brzezicki, delegate. Glenn Album, delegate. Bernice Garotti, alternate. B.J. Leidner, alternate. Motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? All right. Orange County. Please be advised the following, this went to them. All right, Andy Lamarca. And did we didn't get a renewal for you. This was letters that were sent to them, to Orange County, Andy's. You're up for reappointment. Sullivan County. Be advised, the following delegate, alternate's term on the regional council will expire on 6/30. Albie, Neil, and Heidi. All right, so we need a letter by the 30th for that. Lisa Servino, be advised, the following delegate, alternate's term on the regional council will expire on 6/30/18. Rich Paolelli. Okay, so that's that. All right. Yes, Dave.
Just go back to protocol real quick, under the REMAC. I just want to say the protocol group has been meeting monthly and working very diligently on the AEMT protocols, equipment list, what that rollout's going to be like, the regional testing, that sort of thing. It's pretty close. I think that we're going to have something at the REMAC and then move from there. So kudos to that group for the work they're doing.
Good. Thank you. All right, on the new business, first vote I'd like to get done with is the vote for Walden Fire Department, BLS First Response. Glenn, where did Glenn go? Oh, I'm sorry, you're hiding back there. All right, got any comments on that? That comes as a seconded motion, I believe.
We received a application for BLS
Glenn, I can't hear you because you're
I'm sorry.
like this.
We received an application for the FD BLS first responder. I was not at the meeting that was discussed. I assume you guys approved it. And we're going to approve it here.
Okay, so that comes as a seconded motion. All right, as a seconded motion, and want to clear up that as we're voting, and this will take for both of the votes this evening, is conflict of interest. No officer or member of the council may vote on any matter in which he or she has a pecuniary interest. When an officer or a member of the council is uncertain as to whether a conflict of interest exists, he or she shall disclose the matter to the full council, which shall decide whether a conflict of interest exists. And for purposes of the votes, as I mentioned in the beginning, the alternates do have the right to vote, and all votes must be in the majority of not of who's present, but we have 24 voting members of the council, and a majority of those 24 is 13, so for a motion, for both these motions to pass, must have an affirmative of 13 in the affirmative. All right? So, it says here, a statement shall be entered into the stenographic record that clearly defines the authority of the alternates, and as I mentioned, alternates are authorized to vote when taking the place of a delegate. All right?
This was a delegate that needs to be put on the record.
Okay, just got a last minute, all right. Who is this from?
Ellen Mancuso, Chair of Orange County.
Oh, Tuesday night was our meeting where our new delegate, Dave Grass, was voted into this position. His email and the term of this delegate position is 4 years, and this is Eileen Mancuso of Orange County EMS Council. Okay. Motion?
So moved.
So moved. You second? Any discussion? All right. All in favor? All right. Opposed? Dave, you can have a seat at the table. All right, so those are it.
They have to vote.
Yeah, he can vote now. Yep. But if they need it, right? All right, so as a second in motion for the expansion, or not, for Walden FD, BLS first response, does any voting member have conflict of interest that they wish to declare? Any conflict of interest? All right. Seeing none? All right. There's a second in motion. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Oh, it's a roll call, I'm sorry. Thank you. Keep me honest.
Okay, Nicholas Trio, yes. Dave Violanti?
Yes.
Dee Sagendorf?
Yes.
Joan Cheney?
Yes.
Andrew Lamarca?
Yes.
Israel Knobloch?
Yes.
Dave Grass? Robert Cuomo? Oh, no, I'm sorry, he's not here. David Jacobson?
Yes.
Matthew Gandhi?
Yes.
Michael Murphy?
Yes.
Desiree Leone?
Yes.
Glenn Albin?
Yes.
Bernice Karati?
Yes.
BJ Leidner?
Yes.
Avi Bachman?
Yes.
Rich Parrish?
Yes.
Kelly Nelson?
Yes.
Lisa Servino?
Yes.
We have 18 yes votes.
Thank you. All right. For the expansion of Shavera Hatzola, all right, again, the conflict of interest. Does anybody wish to declare a conflict of interest?
Not an officer, nor have any financial interest.
Okay? Does anybody have any concerns with that? All right? Anybody else have a conflict of interest that they wish to declare? Thank you. All right. What we have is, came before the committee, or the council, is a request for the expansion of service of Shavera Hatzola into all of Rockland County. We held a public hearing, and the public hearing officer gave his report, And following that report, the Transportation Committee held its meeting and reviewing that and the recommendations. So I'm going to bring forward to you a seconded motion, and the motion has to be in the affirmative. So the seconded motion from the committee has to be to approve. And now we'll get into the finding of fact, what the administrative law judge gave us, and then the opinion of the committee. The recommendation of the administrative law judge is, based upon the foregoing, it is the recommendation of this hearing officer that the application of Shavera Hatzola of Rockland County Incorporated for an expansion from its existing primary service area, the town of Ramapo, County of Rockland, to now include the entirety of Rockland County pursuant to 3008 be denied. That's their recommendation. The Transportation Committee met following that recommendation, and again, once that hearing is done, this particular hearing officer did permit other agent or anybody present to submit written documentation and gave them 5 days to do so. It was open to both sides, whether for or against. Those were brought in, and he reviewed them, and that was in his packet, and based on that, it's still what his recommendation was. The Transportation Committee, I chaired that, and I requested Glenn to recuse himself from that, because Glenn, in the area that this expansion is taking place, is in Rockland County. So I asked him to just recuse himself from that so that there would be hopefully no perceived conflict. Thank you. All right. So I chaired that, and the Transportation Committee was called on May 14th at the offices. Bill Hughes, myself, Glenn, Dee, Tim Murphy, BJ, Terry Barbie, Jeff Pritchner, and Carrie Delaney. All right. Discussion was held, and it was the opinion of the Transportation Committee to uphold the recommendation of the administrative law judge to deny the expansion. All right. So at that point, the floor is open for discussion. No new information can be presented. Clarification of questions can be done, but no new information can be presented. All right? Andy?
First, for clarification, what was the rationale from the administrative law judge for that recommendation? You never said.
I can read the whole thing, and that'll, because he felt that there, in the sum, I am constrained by the policy. Okay. In sum, I am constrained by the policy statement of the New York State Department of Health Bureau of Emergency Medical Services number 0606, which defines what a public need is in order for an applicant to have its geographic operating area expanded under New York Public Health Law 3008. To be sure, the text 3008.1 makes clear that the legislature entrusted to the New York State Department of Public Health the discretion to define public need. But the fact the applicant has not met its burden for area expansion under New York Health Public Law 3008 does not leave the applicant unable to treat Orthodox Jewish patients outside the town of Ramapo its primary territory because New York Public Health Law 3010D permits it to do so without having to demonstrate a public need as defined by the Department of Health. However, until the Department of Health amends its definition of public need under 3008 to include the need to serve the religious convictions of a religious community without requiring the applicant to also demonstrate, and this is in italics, all right, the treating those patients is not readily correctable through the reallocation of improvement of existing resources. This applicant on this record comes up short. It is not the function of this hearing officer to question the wisdom of the legislature, which left the discretion to the Department of Health to define public need. Does that answer it? Okay. Karen?
Well, I'd like to have an opportunity to speak if I may. I'm not a member of the REMSCO, obviously, but if you finish the discussion within the REMSCO, I'd like to be able to say something on behalf of the Sheriff. So
Anybody else?
I can do it myself.
Okay.
So my name's Peter Milak. I'm an attorney in Albany. Along with Karen Tadeo, who you all know, we are representing Chevrolet Sola. Sylvan Klein is here, the executive director. I know all of you do. So if it's okay, Mr. Parrish, I'd like to make a statement.
I have no objection. Go ahead.
Thank you. So a few facts for those of you who are not from Rockland County. Chevrolet Solar has been in operation in Rockland since 1981 in two villages, and its territory was expanded to all of Ramapo in 2011. And as Mr. Parrish said, the purpose of the application is to expand to the rest of Rockland County. It has 10 vehicles currently in operation, 2 more have just been delivered, and the third is on order, so there are 13 vehicles available to serve the whole county. They have 120 EMTs, BLS EMTs, and 25 ALS paramedics who are available to serve as well. And in 2017, it took 10,500 calls per year. 329 of those came from outside of Ramapo in the rest of Rockland County. So the key question, as Mr. Parrish said, and as the hearing officer identified, is whether there's public need for Chevrolet's services in Rockland County beyond the town of Ramapo. And 0606 defines public need, and it also lists the criteria that should be considered when determining public need. One of the criteria that's listed in 0606 is local factors, and that's on that criteria is what the Chevrolet application is based on. It's based on 3 different things: the large, growing, and expanding Orthodox population in Rockland County, unique needs of that population with respect to emergency medical services, and the unique capacity of Chevrolet to meet those needs. These are the same needs that justified the very first application that Chevrolet submitted in 1981 to be in Muncie and New Square. And it was also the same justification that was used in 2011 to allow Chevrolet to expand its operating territory to all of the town of Ramapo. And I cite for that support for that the 1981 report of the hearing officer, Harry Allen, which is in the application, and the May 31, 2011 report of the hearing officer, Kevin Bloom, who is the same hearing officer who issued the report that Mr. Parrish read from. The record shows that the Orthodox population in Rockland County is growing rapidly. In the application itself, we showed that there were 13 new Orthodox congregations opened in Rockland County outside of Ramapo since 2010. That's 13 new congregations, 13 new shuls, 13 new churches of the Orthodox faith. Dr. Geller, who's the president and CEO of Montefiore Nyack, wrote to the hearing officer, the Orthodox Jewish community is spreading out geographically to the towns and villages beyond the town of Ramapo at a rapid pace. Naphtali Morris, who is a well-known...
I'm sorry, I lost you there, Mr.
Sorry, Naphtali, N-A-P-H-T-A-L-I, Morris, of Keller Williams, which is a real estate agency, said this in his letter. One of the most interesting trends that is occurring now is the expansion of the Orthodox Jewish community to all areas of Rockland County. They are buying houses in the village of Pomona, Stony Point, and the town of Harrisburg. The applicant also cited the following. It took, in 2017, 329 calls outside of Ramapo within Rockland County, pursuant to the section of the law which Mr. Parrish cited. And it projects in 2018 taking 401 calls if the current rate continues outside of Ramapo in Rockland County. So people are already seeking the services when they can from Shevra Hatzolah. The record also shows that the Orthodox population has unique needs and desires, and Shevra Hatzolah has the unique ability to meet those needs. Many of the Orthodox residents in Rockland County do not use English as their primary language. Yiddish is their primary language. And every member of the Shevra Hatzolah staff speaks Yiddish as well as English. Orthodox residents also base their whole lives on the tenets of Orthodox Judaism. It is very strictly controls what they do on an everyday basis. And this places special demands on EMS, which can't be ignored. For one thing, prayer is an example. During an emergency, patients have a desire to keep their prayer books with them. That is something that Shevra Hatzolah arranges. Clothing removal. Orthodox men and women have very specific concepts of when and how to remove clothing when the need arises. Hatzolah has a better understanding of these issues and how to deal with them. For example, removing the head covering of a woman may seem trivial to many of us, but to a married Orthodox patient, removing it for anything less than a total emergency is traumatic. Taking blood pressure over clothing, running a stethoscope under clothing, and not having to expose patients are some of the ways in which Hatzolah addresses the specific needs under Orthodox religion of Orthodox patients. Hatzolah members ride along with Orthodox patients, so there are others that are permitted in order to provide comfort and security to those people in need at the moment. Another thing that's very specific to the Orthodox faith is the strict observance of the Sabbath. The Jewish Sabbath begins on Friday night, just before sundown, and extends until Saturday evening. During this time, Orthodox Jews are not permitted to engage in many of the recreational activities that take place that are obvious, that we many of us take for granted. They can't listen to the radio, they can't turn on electric lights, they can't write, they can't cook, and they can't engage in the creative arts. Similar prohibitions pertain to Jewish holidays, many of which last more than one day. During these times, patients and families rely on the guidance of Hatzolah members who are trying to help them about what they may and may not do. And Hatzolah, in turn, relies on its board of rabbis and the standing instructions that that board has issued for advice on matters of faith in situations of an emergency. Staying with the patient till relatives arrive, arranging transport for a relative with the patient, reaching out to community groups to help the family with meals. Those are some of the important services that go beyond the normal duties of an EMS, and that's what Hatzolah does. Morton Silverberg wrote, he's a long-time lawyer in Rockland County, he wrote to the committee, Hatzolah EMS brings the Orthodox Jewish community a unique understanding of its distinct culture and a giving attitude. That's what makes this different. And because of all this, Orthodox residents want to be served by Shevra Hatzolah, and that explains why so many calls are being sent to Hatzolah from areas outside of Ramapo. They're reluctant to call on anyone else. They know that Hatzolah will transfer them or transport them wherever they want to go, and that explains why in 2017, 1,630 patients, and this was in the record, were transported outside of Rockland County at the request of the residents. Now, the opponents to this application made several points which, respectfully, I don't think have any merit. One point was that the current staff, non-Hutzola staff, can be trained to be culturally sensitive to the particular needs of the Orthodox population. That sounds good, but it's not really the same to take a 2-week or 1 week or whatever it is training course on cultural sensitivity versus being immersed in the Orthodox faith from birth and for years, and also having proficiency and proficiency, in Yiddish. That's not something you get out of a training course. That's not something that can be done overnight. This is something that's imbued in the people who work for Chevron Solar. Many of you who know them, understand how committed they are, which is not to diminish or demean any other group that's providing services, but they come with a special expertise which doesn't come out of a training course, can't come out of a training course. Another point made by opponents to this application was that because of that provision in the public health law, which Mr. Parrish cited, Chevron's already permitted to take call outside of Ramapo because of the religious exception in 3010(1)D. That's really not the same thing as being approved and accepted as part of the services provided to the whole of Rockland County. It doesn't allow Chevron,
Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. The religious exception does not allow Chevron Solar to station vehicles outside of Ramapo. It does not allow for pickups of patients from hospitals outside of Ramapo and transportation to their homes unless the patients reside within Ramapo. And does not allow for any type of non-emergency service like nursing home to medical services unless the nursing home is in Ramapo. While there is an exception, and while it does allow the calls that I mentioned were taken by Hutzola outside of Ramapo, it's not the same thing as being fully licensed to provide services. And the last point that was raised and that was cited by the hearing officer is that Chevron has not shown a need in all of Rockland County. Now, Rockland County is not a big county. We are not talking about Arizona or Montana. We're not even talking about Suffolk County or some of the other big counties in New York. Chevron has already filed 2 approved applications, first for a couple of villages, then for Ramapo itself. If somehow it were limited in its application now to some lesser area than all of Rockland, it would then eventually and inevitably have to file a 4th application to cover the rest of Rockland. That would mean 4 applications to extend territory within one small county of the state. And I think it's, while it is technically possible, it's not something that goes on regularly. If you look at counties around the state, and I know you're all familiar with people who do your job in other places, they don't approve slivers of counties unless there's some really significant reason not to grant approvals for a county as a whole. And I think that's what you should do now. So for all of those reasons, we think it's really incumbent on you, with all respect, to read the report, to read the decision of the deliberations of the Transportation Committee, but ultimately to take the position that this is a needed service, that people want this service because it's different, it's special, and the people providing it are geared to the needs of the people who need the services. So for those reasons, we hope that you feel positive in favor of it. We're happy to answer questions if you have any.
Just add one little supplement to it. Hearing officer said it wasn't in the definition of need that's in 0606 about the religious need for religious. I need you to look at religious exception in 3010. When the legislature passed that, the legislature said that it says an ambulance or advanced life support first response service organization formed to serve the need for the provision of emergency medical services in accordance with the convictions of religious denominations. Legislature in the statute says there's a need for special services that are enacted and enabled to meet the religious needs. So as Peter said, it's part of 0606 under the other considerations that the legislature calls it a need.
Okay, Andy?
just for clarification, I understand that the county of Rockland supported this application, as did the large paramedic service that covers the county.
Yes.
They both did. And again, listening to this too, I mean, obviously there's ways that it can be done without maybe a CON, but certainly I think the delivery of the medicine, you know, you give it all the time everywhere, but the way that it's delivered or the special needs of those patients, I think has to be addressed too. And I think the small point that maybe isn't really reflected on, we're used to planning operations and, you know, where we station ambulances, you know, on an everyday basis to impact patient care and get there as quickly as possible. And I do think that the point is being validly made that, you know, being able to expand that to run outside your CON area, to provide service is not the same as, you know, outposts or station, you know, units where they might be needed. That's a flexible sort of concept. So I do, you know, think that in this case, and I think if we saw it at the state council as well, in an appeal process, we would go back and look at what the county representatives, you know, who are in the best place to tell us what they had, you know, determined. And it seems to me that they determined that there's a need.
Mike?
Andy and I were both integral into the actual writing of 0606. And it does have the caveat to address local needs and local considerations. I think the hearing officer was handcuffed a little bit by the literal interpretation of 3008 and the literal interpretation of 0606, not having that local flavor. That's why when it comes to the regional council, that is where the local flavor is introduced into the discussion. And being a former member of the state council, and Andy also, that was the first question that's always asked of the state council appeal: what was the local flavor, what was the local thought process? So I think what we have here, even though need per se, if it was Acme Ambulance that was looking to expand into, you know, A ambulance was looking to expand into B and C's territory, then it would be a different discussion as far as can B and C provide that, why is A moving into other territories? So that's the flavor of 0606 and the flavor of 3008. 3010 already allows this to be done based on religious need. So us as clinicians, and all due respect to the legal professionals here, but us as clinicians and EMS providers, it's our job here at the table to make sure that the medical needs of a particular subset are met appropriately. And I think that if you're looking at the specific needs based on all the religious considerations, that the Hatzola is best at providing that for their community. And their community is expanding, and, you know, 300 calls this last year, whatever it was, will be 400, will be 500, will be 600. And, you know, we will be back here again in another year or two with more numbers. I'm sure Hudson, if we didn't approve it, which I think would be detrimental to the needs of their constituents and their patients. But if that be, then we would be back here, and they would spend more money on attorneys, with all due respect, and we would spend more money. And, you know, we would have, by that time, they would have, you know, enough fault lines to say, well, we go into that area. So I think, in general, we have to be able to put the state flavor aside, integrate the local flavor, integrate EMS practitioners' flavor as opposed to jurisprudence flavor, and do the right thing by their constituents and their organization. With that said, the motion on the table from the committee is to deny it, correct?
Correct.
So therefore...
No, the motion has to be to approve. The recommendation from the committee is...
Okay, I'm just making sure, because then people if people want to approve this, that they vote in the right direction. Because sometimes if there is a motion in other words, we have a seconded motion from the committee.
The second motion, the way I'm reading it from 0606 is, it is a proper format for a motion to approve the application. The motion is supported by recommendations from the committee for or against. So the motion has to be, and that's the motion from the committee, a motion is to approve.
Okay, the motion from the committee is to approve, so therefore.
All right, but the recommendation from the Transportation Committee and from the hearing officer,
Our vote is to approve the expansion. not
Yes.
To approve their recommendation.
when we go to a vote, if you vote yes, then that's to approve. If you vote no, it's to not approve
The expansion.
the expansion. Okay?
Just one thing, everything that's been said here is very good. It's from an operational perspective when we deal with the public. When someone in the public, as an example, person has a seizure inside a store, local store calls 911. Now you've got police, ambulance, paramedic units responding. Now the community member who was with the person then calls Zola and shows up at the scene where competent medical care has already arrived. So from a logistical, operational standpoint, it becomes a little bit confusing. That people will be responding, again, wherever you set your ambulances up, but they're still going to be responding. And that's, where logistically I would see some problems. I personally don't have a problem with the need to submit the special need of the Orthodox community. I think what they do is great, but I think we have to understand we don't work in a vacuum. There are other players that are in here that are providing the services that get called in the 9/11 system, and as a result, there's competing needs there. So we'll go from there.
Yes.
And then,
Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry. In 2 weeks, it will be my 30th year with Rockland Paramedics. Yes. We have a wealth of the experience that you're talking about as far as those usual dual responses that occur in the town around them. They occurred quite frequently in the beginning. They still occur at times. There was a tremendous respect and cooperation and mutual respect between the police departments, fire departments, the ambulance force of Spring Hill and Grand Valley, Rockland Paramedics, we deal with those situations on a daily basis sometimes. And there has never been an issue. There's complete cooperation at the scene. A lot of times, all right, it's an Orthodox member, you go.
Yeah, they usually hand it off.
Right, oftentimes, if it's a non-Orthodox member and Hatzola is the second truck that's there, they're more than happy. They don't just, and it was mentioned at the hearing, which I took offense to, that, if it's not a member of their community, they transport anytime where they're listening to take this, no problem, et cetera. So I don't see that as being an issue as to impede what I think everybody, the flavor I'm getting from the table is the right thing.
David?
I would like to echo what everyone said here so far, especially Andy and Murph. I'm a systems guy for anybody who hasn't figured that out. And I think it's far better from a system perspective when you're looking at overall patient care to break down the silos that are holding back the care for the individual patient. And if you look at the system, it's far better for these guys as a specialty service to be in the system and integrated within the system than to work outside the system. And for us to be welcoming and accepted as a part of that system, I think it's a far better service for the entire system overall. And I'll be honest, there's times where if we've got a specialty patient I am just more than happy to see someone that can actually handle that situation when I can. And it sounds like they really feel that need, and it's growing, and they should be the ones to take care of that.
Desiree?
I just want to speak a little bit about the need working for the county coordinator's office. We receive calls on a daily basis about people that are, about Orthodox communities expanding, especially the Harrisburg-Mona area. They want Hutzel to be able to be stationed there, to be closer. There was a call last summer where I guess a child maybe drowned, I don't know all the circumstances, but they feel that if they can get Hutzel stationed where they live, they're going to be able to respond quicker. They're going to be able to be a part of the system with them. So I think as far as a need, I could tell you on a daily basis, we field calls from the community asking for how do we get Hutzel in here. And that's throughout the county. I mean, particularly the Haverstraw-Pomona area, but that's not the only place. It's throughout the county that we're receiving these calls. So maybe they only did 300, but I bet if they were everywhere, there'd be a lot more. If we talked about this in a year from now, it would be much more than even 400 projected.
Dave?
Yeah, one more thing I wanted to add was that from a regional level, we've already accepted this idea by changing our CLI course to a Sunday to be able to accommodate for the religious needs of this group. And so I think this is an extension of that concept.
Okay. Is there any new information that has not, I shouldn't say new information, but does anybody else have anything to say supporting what just been said without rehashing it continuously? If not, then, sir?
I'm sorry, his name.
Sylvan Pond.
At one point, my name is Sylvan Pine, Executive Director of Hutzel. I just want to expound a little bit for 1 minute on a point that Desiree just made. Desiree reported about an incident that happened about a year ago of a young child drowning in the swimming pool. The story there was a very young child in the swimming pool. The mother was at the pool as well as 4 other ladies. For some reason, none of them saw the child going under. When we finally did realize it, the mother ran across the street to try and get a neighbor to come and help instead of picking up the phone. That took a precious few minutes' time. When she came back, then everybody realized there was a Hutzel member that lived exactly next door where this was taking place. Just the mother didn't think of going next door to them. Eventually, unfortunately, the baby died. But the baby was taken to the hospital. The baby lived for a week before it died. After the week was after the shiva was over, a week later, the mother was telling people, you have no idea how thankful I am to Hutzel that they extended the life of my baby for 1
Okay. That's what I was getting ready to, all right? So there's the motion from the Transportation Committee, all right, has to be a motion to approve the application. And again, you've heard from the law judge and from the Transportation Committee to deny. All right, the motion is to approve the Sheva Hutzola, Rockland County. All right, a vote in the affirmative is to approve. A vote negative is to deny. And this is a roll call vote, all right? And again, we approved Dave, and is he replacing you, Andy? All right, and does that take effect tonight or from the 30th on?
I believe it's the 30th. I think that's
Okay,
when-
so that
when he-
Andy would be the vote?
Yeah, because Andy expires on the 30th.
On the 30th, okay.
And then
Yep,
June.
okay.
Yes.
So, fine.
So Dave won't-
Dave does, Andy votes.
Okay.
All right. All right, and again, the total membership of the organization is 24. So in order for this to pass, it must have 13 votes in the affirmative. All right? Ready, Nick?
Yes, sir.
Go for it.
Okay, Nicholas Trio, yes. Dave Violante,
Yes.
Dee Sagendorf,
Yes.
Joan Cheney,
Yes.
Andrew Lamarca,
Yes.
Israel Knobloch,
Yes.
David Jacobson,
Yes.
Matthew Bondi,
Yes.
Michael Murphy,
Yes.
Desiree Leone,
Yes.
Glenn Albin,
Yes.
Bernice Garotti,
Yes.
B.J. Leidner,
Yes.
Avi Bachman,
Yes.
Rich Parrish,
Yes.
Dorothy Balin. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Kelly Nelson, and Lisa Servino. There's 17 votes for approval.
Okay, no abstention, that's good. All right,
Thank you.
it's all yours. Okay. All right? All right,
I would just like to thank the work of the Transportation Committee. This was a unique one.
yep, and we got a couple more coming down. The Transportation Committee, he was told nothing happened. I think we got 2 or 3 more coming down.
Nothing happens on the trip.
All right, just an announcement. Bob's not with us this evening. Bob, his property got hit pretty hard with the tornado. A lot of trees down. His prize Mustang, a collector's item, got destroyed. If you see him, yeah, give me your sympathies.
We just don't want to mention the Mustang.
Buy him a beer.
No, I'm not.
Don't mention the Mustang.
No, don't mention that. Yes, that's his collector's card. But yeah, yeah, he got hit pretty hard with that. All right, is there any other business that has to come before the council? If not, yes, I'm
Thank
sorry.
everybody on behalf of Council for granting us the extension.
Desiree had something?
Now I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Next meeting.
When's the next meeting is right, yeah.
Where is she?
Sharon, do you know any of
We'll
this?
have to get that to you.
Yeah.
All right, there was a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Motion is adjourned at 20:33.